Hello friends, so today we're gonna discuss all the 4 problems from the latest LeetCode bi-weekly contest 33. So let's start. The first problem is 1000 separators. So you are given an integer n, you have to add a dot as a 1000 separator and return it as a string format. So let's see some test examples. As you can see in this, the number is already in a 1000 form. There are 3 digits. But as you can see in this, after every 3 digits you have to put a dot, but if it is less than 3 digits you just have to return this as the whole number only. And same for this, as you can see, after every 3 digits you have to return a dot, then 3 digits dot, and so on. So what you can easily do here is you can iterate over whole the numbers, because it is a number. Iterate over from start, like back to front, pop out one number and then place it into a string format and add it to a new string. Whenever the length of this becomes 3 modulus, because after every 3 position you have to put a dot. Whenever this length becomes 3 modulus, which is like 3, 6 and so on, you put a dot there and then like continue moving along this number to form the new string. I hope you understand the logic part. Let's move on to the code to make it more clear. Take the input of the string s, or make it an empty string. Take this number n. If this number n is 0, then output is just 0. Okay, then what you can do, cc store how many digits are there. Okay, because after every 3 digits we have to put a dot. Then we will do this while iteration such that whenever the while this n doesn't turn out to be 0, we will pop out the last element from this number and decrease this n by 10 or divide it by 10, and then like convert this number into a character, into like we have to add it into the string, then add this character into the string and increment your count. Okay, now there are 2 cases. If this n turns out to be 0, then you just return out 0, or like return out s, which is the new string, because actually n becomes 0 while iterating, then you just return out s. But if this c is greater than 0 and the modulus of this c is equal to 0, when you do a modulus of this cc, which counts how many digits are there with 3, and it turns out to be 0, which means that we have stored 3 digits and now we have to insert a character. You can insert a character, and then after doing all this, whenever you hit n equal to 0, you will return out, and you can also put an s here just to make this function, because there is a return type of string. That's the first question. Let's move on to the second question now. The second question states that you have to find the minimum number of vertices to reach all nodes. So as you can see in this example, there are some nodes and some directed edges. Now you can choose some edges such that from those edges you can reach every other edge. You have to find out a subset of the smallest number of edges you can choose, or sorry, nodes you can choose, such that you can reach every other node. As you can see, if you take 0 and 3, if you take 0, you can reach this, 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 and then if you choose 3, you can reach this and this. So as you can see, if you choose this 0 and 3, you can reach every other node. The logic behind this question is, I'll tell you more with this example. So let's assume that there are only 2 nodes, or let's assume there are 3 nodes. If there is, it is directed like this. If there is a directed edge inside, towards going inside this node, what does this mean? It means that there is a node, because there is a directed edge toward this node can be reached by some other node. So we want that node should be the starting value, because if we take that value, that node, then it is better to take that node and we will iterate over to this node. So if some node is there which has some in degree, this is the count of in degree. If there is some node which has some in degree, then we don't count it, because this node can be reached by some other node. Okay, now see this node, this also has some in degree, so don't count it. This node doesn't have any in degree, so count this. And this is the only node, because if you take this, you can reach this, this, this. So what does this mean? You, for every node, count out the in degree of that node. If that in degree is greater than 1, then like that node can be reached by some other node. If the in degree is 0, which means that this node cannot be reached by any other node. So you have to at least make or take this node as the starting point or as a subset to reach all other nodes. So that's the whole logic. So let's move on to the code part now. you make this array global of n degree because the size is 10 to the power 5. I make this. You can also make of this of 10 to the power or n, size of n. Then in degree is because there's a directed edge from, like, it is given edge in the form of, like, there's an edge from 2 to 1. So which means that if there's an edge from 2 to 1, then 1 has some in degree. So iterate over all the edges. The 0th index stores the starting point and the ending in degree value will be at the 1. So for every edge, increase the in degree of that node. And then total, you have to find out the subset total, iterate over all the n edges, or like, sorry, n nodes, and then check that for every node, if the in degree is equal to 0, then only you will push back this node into this total vector, and then the output is total. That's the second logic. Let's move on to the third logic now. The third is a very interesting problem. The problem states that you are given two operations. You can do two operations, which is modify. You can add one index to, like, this idx, which means that if you do an operation of 0, then you can choose any index and increment that array value of that index by 1, or else multiply by 2 all elements, which means that if it is an operation of kind 1, so you have to modify your array, like using this function, in which you will send your array and an operation type and the index. If the operation type is 1, you will multiply every element of yours by 2, and if the operation type is 0, then you will take out some index which is also sent and increment that index by 1. So what your task is? Your task is to form an integer array nums. So you are given an array, initial array, which is all 0, and you have to read some target array, and you have to do some minimum number of function calls. So in every call, what you will do, you can either add 1 to any of the numbers, or what you can do, you can multiply every number with 2. That's the two operations you can do, and you have to do the minimum number of operations to reach this target value. Okay, target vector. Now, as you can see, because at every point, what you can do, you have to multiply the whole array. So let's assume that there are some values. We can use this, like, example only, which is like 1, 5. This is 1 and 5. Okay, so now what you can observe here is you can either go from 0, 0 to this confirmation, or either you can go from this confirmation to 0, 0. They are both same. So let's start, because we are given this, we can easily go to this confirmation. So as you can see, if both of them are like 2, 2, if both of them are 2, 2, which means that both of them are even, it is beneficial to divide them by 2, and then every number will divide by 2, and then it will become like 1, 1, and then you will decrease every number by 1 and 1, it will become 0 and 0, and the total operation will be like this and this, which is equal to 3. So what you can observe is, when you divide every number by 2, it's actually an exponential decrease. Exponential, because if you do like 10 operations which is dividing every number by 2, it is like exponentially decreasing that number. So whenever there is an exponential factor, what you can do, you can always try to do it as a brute force manner. So that's the first logic which I do, just brute force these operations. Okay, so what does this mean? That I have actually highlighted, or total is the total number of operations you do, n is the total size of this nums, y is an operation. Then there are three like variables, 0, even, and odd. Iterate over all the, so like, let's assume you start at some state, and this is the nums vector state. You check that how many zeros are there, how many evens, and how many odds are there. After this iteration, what you will see, that if everything turns out to be 0, if everything is 0, then you don't do anything, because you are going from this state to this state. If you somehow make this state equal to 0, 0, which means that you have reached the final state. So you will return out the total number of steps you have taken. Okay, if now you have two options, if everything is not 0, you have two options. If everything is even, if the number of count of even is n, which means that every number is even, what you can do, you can increment your count and decrement every number by, like, divide every number by 2. Else what you can do, if every number is not even, you have to make the numbers which are odd, subtract 1 to them, such that now every number can become even. So what you can do, you can iterate over all the n numbers and check that whatever number is odd, because you are minus one number from every number. For every one number minus, there isn't one operation which is counted. So for every number in which nums of I is subtracted by 1 because it is odd, you increment your total operations you do, and then you will keep on doing this such that the whole number will be, or the whole array will become 0, and then you will return out total. This will also pass. Okay, so this is the one of the brute force way you can do this question, but there is a very tricky and very nice way you can observe this question is, let's assume that every number is 0 0 in the initial. See in the bit manipulation form. Okay, now what you can see that, let's assume that I add, so I have two operations now. I can add one number to any number, or I can multiply the whole array by 2. Okay, let's assume that I multiply this number and this number by 1, or like add 1 to it. So it will become in the bit manipulation. Let's assume we are doing it in bit manipulation, it is 0 0 0. It will become like 0 and 0. Like these are different number, like this is different number, this is different number, this is different number. So we have 3 numbers in an array, and initially they all are zeros. Then I will add 1 to the first number and 1 to the last number. Now the numbers will become like this, 1 0 1. Now if I multiply every number with 2, what will happen? In bit manipulation they will shift by 1 left place, so it will be like this, 1 0 0 0 and then 1 0. I hope you understand this point. And then if I again multiply whole numbers by 2, it will again shift by this, it will be like 1 1 0 0 and like 1 0 0. Now if I add only like 1 to this number and this number, it will become like this, 1 0 1 and like 1 and 1 0 1. So as you can see now, how many operations did I have like done to reach this condition? Okay, as you can observe that whenever there is a 1 in this number, for every 1 I have actually done one operation, because inserting 1 requires one operation. So what you can do, for every number check how many like set bits are there, because every set bit will constitute a operation. So that's the first thing, like operations you can do. But as you can see, we also have shifted these numbers. For every multiplication with 2, these numbers have shifted. So how many times we have shifted? We have shifted it by 2 times. So how we can check that? The maximum set bit will tell us how many times we have shifted, and that's the number we have to multiply. Because if we multiply it with like 5 times 2, the maximum 1 will shift by 5 times, and the maximum position of the bit position of this will tell us how many times we have multiplied with 2, which is also counted as operation, and the number or the count of ones or bits which also tells us how many times we have added 1, which is also counted as an operation. So you can count out both of these operations, and that's the whole logic for the second part. So total is the total number of bit operation. Highest bit will tell us what is the highest bit. Then we can iterate over all the bit positions from 0 to 30, because the number is up to 2 to the power 30. We can do this, and then what we will do, for every bit position, what we can do, we iterate over all the numbers and check that whether this bit position is set or not. If it is set, then we will increment our total, because for every set number we have done one step. And we will also store out whether this position is having some bit which is set. So highest bit will change. Highest bit will store what is the highest bit ever we have seen in all the numbers, because that will tell us how many times to multiply we have done. So the output is just total and the highest bit. I hope you understand this logic also. So let's move on to the third logic, or the third question. Third question is also not that difficult, in which you have to detect a cycle in a 2D graph or 2D grid. So you are given a 2D grid, as you can see, and then like in the character form, and you have to find out whether there is a cycle in this. So you can easily do this with the DFS. So you just don't go to its parent. As you can see, as you have seen in a lot of graph problems, how we traverse with a DFS, we store the current node and its parent. But in graph problems, the nodes are numbered with only one number, which is like 0 or 1 or 2. But in this, every grid position is mentioned by 2 coordinates, x and y. So same, we will store a current coordinate and the parent coordinate. The parent coordinate will tell us that we don't go back in the cycle, and the current coordinate will tell us like what is the next coordinate we have to go. And then we will keep track of a visited array also, such that we will know that whether we are going in the same direction or not, correct direction or not. So this is simple DFS, like simple DFS. So I'll take it on to the code part now. So take the input of n and m, okay, the dimensions. Mem set the whole visited vector or the whole visited matrix to be 0. Then whether this has a cycle or not, it is false because we don't know that whether it has cycle or not. We'll iterate over all the starting positions from 1 till n, and whether if it is not visited, if that position is not visited, then only we will do something. You can also write it like this: if it is not visited, and then what we can do, has cycle, we do an OR, because in any of the like any of the iterations we do, if we find out a cycle, this function return out 1 or true, and then this has, because we are doing a OR operation, it will turn out 1 or true if any of these cycles becomes a cycle, like any of these DFS call will become a cycle, then this will turn out to be true and we return out true. So how this DFS function will run, we will send the ith I and j, which is the current location on which we start, and the parent coordinate, which is like in the initial as you have seen that in the initial graph problems, the initial parent is taken out to be -1, and so that's what I've done. The initial parent coordinate will be taken as -1 -1, and then we will iterate over this DFS call. So first mark out this visited x. So this is current xy, parent xy, the cycle character, because we have to see that the character should be same, and the grid. Okay, then mark out this current xy, it has a cycle false. Iterate over all the 4 directions. We have used this direction pair vector to iterate over all the 4 directions. Find out the new xy, the new direction you can move. So now if this new xy is valid and this is not the parent, then what we'll do, we will check that this grid value or the new value which we have to move is also the character at this position is the cycle character, which means that the new coordinate is also the same character on which we have to go. If all these conditions hold true, we will check that if this new character or new position which we move is the same we have seen, if it is visited only, then we return out true, which means that we have found a cycle. Else what we can do, that if this is not visited, we will again call this DFS by this new is the current position now, and this current xi will become the parent, and character remain the same, grid remain the same, and so on. And we will do an OR operation same like this, and then we return out has cycle, which stores that if there is a cycle while moving along this path. There's a is valid function, which is very simple. If we go out of bound, this will return false or return true. And there's a visited boolean vector and array matrix of array, and then this like this. I hope you understand the logic as well as the code. If you still have any doubts, please mention down. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Keep coding. Bye.